My wife, the CEO, called and said, "We're downsizing. Today's your last day, unless you want to stay on as a janitor." She and her sister laughed. My world shattered with a single phone call, a casual dismissal that felt like a punch to the gut, delivered by the very woman who was supposed to be my partner in life. It was a betrayal so cold, so calculated, it still makes my blood run cold. The call came just after lunch, right as I was staring out the 20th floor window of Echelon Global's Midtown office. I was watching the city turn beneath me, the endless traffic, the anonymous people, the ceaseless motion of a place that never stops to consider who just lost their footing. I honestly thought it might be Belle, checking in about dinner, or maybe dropping a hint about where she wanted to go for our anniversary. You know, some new place with sculpted plates and 12-course menus that charged extra for air. But when I answered, I heard it in her voice before she even spoke, the smirk. "We're downsizing," she said, sharp and breezy, like she was commenting on the weather. "Today's your last day. Unless you want to stay on as janitor? Floors need mopping." And then, behind her, I heard it, Myra's unmistakable cackle. Cold, cruel, loud enough that she wanted me to hear it. That's when I knew. This wasn't just business. This was personal. My wife's sister had hated me since the day I stopped paying for her Pilates classes and called her out for trying to expensive vacation using one of Belle's business cards. She was the type who smiled at funerals, mostly to check out who was grieving harder than her. I stared at the skyline, forcing my voice to stay even. "Thanks for the amazing offer." Belle laughed, like she'd won something. And maybe, in her mind, she thought she had. For her, this was probably some final, devastating blow. After all, she was the queen now, CEO of a global firm, wearing tailored power suits and clinking glasses with venture capitalists who didn't care what lives they steamrolled. She had the title, the spotlight, her name emblazoned on the mahogany door. And apparently, enough pettiness to fire her own husband like an intern with poor hygiene. But she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know about the fallback plan. The one I'd been nurturing like a quiet ember in the back of my mind for months. She didn't know about the private studio apartment I kept across town, the one where I did my real work. The kind of work Echelon ran on. The kind of work she paraded around as hers in board meetings. She didn't know that while she was busy stepping over people to pose for glossy magazine interviews, I was building something no publicist could spin, no press release could capture. And she sure as hell didn't know that the reason she could even hold her head high in those shareholder meetings was because of the predictive analytics engine I'd coded, refined, and perfected. An engine that was never formally transferred to Echelon in any signed document. It lived in their systems, sure, but it had my fingerprint all over it. And now, I was the only one who could truly navigate its core without capsizing the entire ship. "I wouldn't bother coming home either," Belle added casually. "We've changed the locks." Myra said it was time. She didn't hang up immediately. She waited, like she wanted to hear me crack, to scream or beg or lash out with the kind of desperation that would prove her superiority. But I didn't give her that. I never had. That was part of what made her hate me toward the end. I didn't need her money, and that, in Belle's world, was an unforgivable crime. So I simply said, "You've made yourself very clear," and hung up. I sat there for a moment longer, breathing through the silence that followed. Full story on the channel. Link below. Click now and watch what happened next.